everyone. Hello, Romain. Hello, Danielle. Thank you very much for a very exciting movie. I laughed my head off. I don't know about you tonight, but I thought the premise of the film is very original. I thought that this is a subject that we do not come across very often. I felt that there's still a taboo, maybe. And I thought it was very daring to come across the subject. So my first question is, how did you come across this story? Where did you find this story as producers? First of all, everybody should know that both of these gentlemen are producers, not directors, and usually la parole is always for the directors, and I'm very happy. I'm a producer myself, so I'm very happy that we honor producers tonight. So as a producer, how did you and why did you choose this project to do?
So as you know, it's we bought a remake rights of a Spanish film, and then I'm going to speak French if you don't mind. Donc pourquoi on a, on a acheté les droits de remake, je pense pour la raison pour laquelle vous avez apprécié le film, parce qu'on a regardé le film avec vous et que vous avez beaucoup ri, et qu'on trouvait le sujet vraiment intéressant sur la complexité de la durée du couple. En fait, c'est le sujet qui nous a intéressés.
So the question, yes, why did we pick this materials? We bought the remake rights kind of for the same reason that maybe you were watching. We were laughing when we saw it. We thought it was funny, but it also was speaking to a certain complexity in relationships, in long-lasting relationships that we don't really talk about that much. And we thought that was an interesting topic to take on.
Danielle? Can you answer the question as well?
Well, we've seen this movie now a few years ago, and at the beginning it was a play in Spain, directed by Cesc Gay, and this director adapted this play in a movie in Spain, and we laugh a lot when we've seen the movie. And the idea was to make an adaptation for the French audience, and we changed several things, but the main film is the same.
But so I heard, and maybe that's not true, that there was a battle to get the rights to the movie. The US was interested. Can you talk about that?
It was a question of timing, because we know that when you are a French producer and you want to buy remake rights for France, we need to be a little bit alone, because, for example, for the international potential, if you have several remakes, it's hurting your potential in France. So we knew that an American studio was interested in the movie, so we were in a rush to buy the remake rights for France, and we worked very quickly on that to be the first one to release the movie.
Okay. As producers, you have to define your roles, I suppose, when you come across a project that you're going to work together, and I'm sure that both of you have different talents and they are complementary. You both have profiles that are very different. Could you talk about, for instance, your profile, Danielle, your past experience before you became Soyouz Films?
Well, we created with Romain Soyouz Film 6 years ago, but before that I spent 20 years working for TF1, which is a main broadcaster in France, doing what we do now. It's co-producing movie, selling movie internationally, and release the movie in France. And At the beginning of my career, I was more in the financial aspect of the business, and I crossed the world of Romain at TF1. He was in charge of developing and producing French content for us.
And I'm a former casting director. That was my first occupation. Then became afterwards film producer, but more on arty and independent films. And then became I used to be in charge of the French production in that studio, developing, doing acquisitions and development on French films.
So, as a producer, you come across all sorts of producers, and they come sometimes from very, very different background stories. When I read about your story, Romain, I couldn't stop thinking of Dominique Besnéard, who was a casting director, one of the most famous casting directors in France, and he became a producer, and he did 10% that everybody knows here, and so was this the fact that you know actors? Was this a strength, you think, to build your cast for this movie? Was this, in other words, was this your part in as a producer? Did you bring the actors? Was it something you did more than Daniel, or was it the director who did it?
More than Daniel, I don't know, but I know my generation of actors, for sure, because I used to work with them at that time. I don't know if it's changed something. It's much easy also with agents, because I know them in my former occupation. But it's a different way. I mean, I started with an artistic collaboration with directors. So I don't know if it's.
How did you pick the director, for instance? How did that come across?
Well, we knew Wilfried Méance for a few years, and we wanted to work with him, and so it was very quickly the first choice for the movie, and he loved the Spanish movie, so we worked with Wilfried and Olivier Ducray.
Ce qui est intéressant aussi en France, c'est que on a deux types de réalisateurs. On a beaucoup d'auteurs-réalisateurs, et maintenant on commence à avoir une famille de réalisateurs qui sont plus, comme les réalisateurs sont aux États-Unis, qui arrivent au moment où il y a un scénario. Donc c'est un peu le cas, parce qu'en fait on arrive avec un matériel de départ. Donc il faut, en fait, c'est comme faire un casting quelque part, et d'aller chercher une personne qui correspond au projet, au film qu'on lui propose, puisque le film existe. Oui. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. That's why I get to be here. Lucky me. So in France, the situation is kind of, you have two types of directors, right? You have the writer-director, which is sort of what we've had for a long time. But now it's a little bit more like in the US, where we also have directors who come to, direct a certain screenplay, or who we find to direct a certain screenplay. And then it's a little bit like you have it in the casting. You are looking for the right director for the material, and it has to sort of match up in order to come together.
And find the one who's going to be interesting in the project you propose.
So let's talk about the location. I was watching very closely, and in the end, I'm not sure. Are we in a studio or in a real apartment?
It's in between, actually. It was a tight budget, so we couldn't. On pouvait pas s'offrir un studio.
Couldn't afford a studio.
We couldn't afford a studio. It's very expensive. So we rent a huge apartment and then we built a small apartment inside to make it less bourgeois that the one we rent was actually.
That's the producer's work, really. This is where you see the smart.
Yeah,
producer.
we had a challenge about the financing because we had something like 2 million euros to make the movie. So we had a lot of obstacles to do that. So the studio was for us was impossible to manage. So that's why we
Right, because even the shot at the veterinary at the end, this is what gave it away for me. So I saw it was a studio shot. It's not a real street. It's fake rain. It's
no the rain.
It's a real street.
Yes, it's a
No,
location.
It's a real clinic.
All right. So, well, no, it's a
Not
tricky
a real
film.
rain.
It's not real rain. Okay. No, but it's a tricky film because you're fooled by many things all the time when you're starting to watch the details. Was there a specific direction for because you have to follow what's going on. The dialogues are very fast. The jokes are quick, and then there's another one just behind. And how did you work on the dialogues, for instance? How did you participate in the
Oui, enfin, ce qu'on a.
the rhythm, perhaps?
Alors, je vais pas aller directement sur les dialogues. Avec Daniel, lorsqu'on a vu le film, on a vraiment eu un intérêt sur le sujet et sur la force de la comédie, du concept, l'opposition de ces deux couples. Un qui n'a plus de sexualité et l'autre qui a une sexualité débordante.
So we were not directly really involved with the dialogue, but what Daniel and I really cared about was the topic and the comedic force behind it, behind this concept of having these two couples and their different force and their completely different sexuality, one with the excessive sexuality and the other one with the non-existent sexuality, and to bring that together.
Donc ça, c'était le côté vraiment fort pour nous, mais il y avait des faiblesses. Donc en fait, avant de parler des dialogues, parce que les dialogues, en fait, on les a suivis pendant l'écriture, mais ce qu'on a demandé au réalisateur, c'était de travailler les défauts qu'on avait vus dans le film, qui étaient très théâtral, puisque l'auteur de la pièce, qui est aussi réalisateur, a réalisé le film, et il restait quand même quelque chose de très figé, et aussi la fin n'existait pas. Et donc on a rajouté, enfin les auteurs, parce que c'est pas nous qui avons écrit, ont rajouté par exemple le chien, le rôti et la fille, qui sont trois éléments très importants, dramatiques.
So there were, of course, a lot of strength, especially in this kind of complex I just described, but there were also certain weaknesses that we saw in the original film, and that we were, of course, also part of the writing, but what we saw in the movie that we then adapted differently was there was so much theater still in the other film, right? Because it was originally a play. He had written it as a play, and then he directed it, the film. So there was something very sort of stiff and very theatrical about it that we adapted and that we changed. And then we, of course, also added a few things. We added the ending, which was different. We added 3 really important elements that were only in our film, which is the dog, the lamb roast, right, and the daughter.
We needed to disrupt the flow of the original movie because it was too theatrical, too much like a play. So that's why we create new things. And about the end of the movie, we wanted with Romain to have something positive, more than the original movie. And for us, it's like
Positive.
a positive end. But we know that the audience could have a different perception of the end of the movie, depending on the history of your past, etc., etc. But
I don't know. What's your feeling about the end of the film? What do you think?
They like it.
Ah, no, no. Do you think it's going to be okay with the couple? Yeah.
So I just want to continue this conversation, and it is a comedy, but it's a drama, really.
Yeah,
Fact,
the
it's-
subject is very.
You're hiding the subject matter. The audience is taken into a trip, if you want, into this fantasy, which is not a fantasy in the end. It's reality. The reality of a couple breaking up, perhaps.
The beginning, it's a sad story about a couple, a tired couple.
So it's like a circle, a full circle. So chapeau.
And we had 2 good directors and also 4 very, very good actors.
Yeah, let's talk about them. Did you know them before? I know you've worked with them.
I knew Isabelle, I knew
Bernard?
the 2 women, actually. And so, for you to know, the older couple is they like lead in France. The other 2 actors, the man, so Alban, is a newcomer, I would say, and the female is a famous actress on stage for theater. The 4 of them, they were really, really good. So we had a problem with the budget. So then,
Can you talk about
we had to shot like very
We had
fast.
4 weeks to shoot the movie, and the idea was to find very committed actors, and they worked a lot before the shooting, and it was very helpful for us at the beginning of the shooting because they knew already all the lines of the script. So for us, it was very helpful. So it's why the shooting was for us. It was a very good experience because the actors was very motivated to do that movie. They made a lot of effort to do that, financially speaking. We put a lot of.
They were very committed financially.
We put a lot of money on deferment, so it was very special, and they are very, very good in the movie, I think.
So is this film out in France now, or are you hoping a distribution?
It was released in April,
Okay.
so it did well in theaters, and we got 4 prizes in a very good film festival in France, which is a festival only for comedies. So we got public prize, we say, jury prize, and the 2 interpretation prizes for female and male for the older couple.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the future? If your next Soyouz Films project, do you have something that you want to talk about?
We have several development comedies mainly because we like comedy. We know that it's very difficult to make a comedy, a very good comedy, because it's a question of rhythm, it's a question of directing the actors, etc., etc. So it's a complex things to do, but we have several projects right now.
Okay.
In financing.
Okay. I'm very curious how the American audience is going to receive this, honestly, because because of the subject, and you know, Americans are more conservative, I would say. And there's a question actually that I've been thinking about: is this film gonna destroy the French lover myth?
So one of
Because it works against it, I tell you.
it's quite funny because one of our next project used to be called, the title was French Lover. we had to change because another project is currently in a shooting process with the same title. But it's just a joke.
So it will be called Sacré-Cœur. It's a romantic comedy with Pablo, Pauly, Alban.
And the same
Fantastic.
directors.
He is fantastic. This guy's gonna go for sure.
So what's interesting to know that those 4 actors, the lead older guy, Xavier, is come from is a comic at the beginning. But oui. And the others, they come from theaters. They were like they are real comedians from theater.